What's up, everybody? I always forget to unmute my solo cast before I bring it to the full cam. I'm Josh. I'm the coach of the Fargo Flygons. You know this. We've had the whole season of videos, and now that the final games have been played, we can do a playoff bracket reaction prediction kind of video, just kind of recap the whole regular season. And we have a very special guest today. We got baby bro Noah in here.
What's up?
So Noah is the head coach of the Castleton Cosmogs. They got 4th place in the regular season, which you'll see in a bit. He and I played a couple weeks ago. It was a really close game, really fun game.
Backbreaker.
And yeah, we're just going to kind of break down the bracket and just kind of how the regular season went, and then do a little predictions and just kind of talk. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. If it's an hour, great. We're just going to make it. So don't feel bad if you're a little long-winded here, Noah.
Yeah. It's off the whim. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just, first of all, I'm going to bring up the standings and just kind of how everything shook out, because we just literally, like 2-3 hours ago finished up the regular season. And now we have full results that we can kind of talk about. So in 8th place, Harry, the Albanian Alakazams, finished with a 1-6 record, negative 18 differential. I think Harry, the score here does not accurately show how much he's improved. I don't think Harry is better than Sean or Sarah or even Dylan, but I think he's come a long way, and I think this 1-6 record is not an accurate showing of where he's at. But I think sure. 8th place is probably where he should have landed. I mean, what do you think here about Harry?
I agree for the most part too. I mean, almost half of us didn't have really any experience coming into the whole thing to begin with, and the difference between at the start of the year as opposed to what it is now, I think for everybody, I think everyone's on a level playing field now. Harry just had some unfortunate games, but I would definitely agree he's come a long way, and I'm excited to see if he can do anything in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a pretty scary team when it comes to the offensive side of things. I think it's a pretty frail team. If we go back to the spreadsheet here and take a look at what he's got, Cinderace, Alakazam, Mimikyu, Seismitoad, Zoroark, Colossal, Blissey, Mew, Aerodactyl, Cofagrigus. A lot of these top tier threats like Cinderace, Alakazam, Zoroark, even kind of Mew and Aerodactyl to an extent, they're pretty frail, and it's hard to get going with a reliable sweep when something, if it dies, you can switch into it reliably and get a revenge kill or something like that. But
for sure,
he's got a team that if you're not careful and if you take things for granted, he could sneak up on you. And we saw tonight in the last game when he played Dylan, just a couple of different plays in the other direction, and Dylan ends up losing that game, and Harry wins. So I think Harry could be a sleeper. And I'm excited to see, if he comes back for season 2, how much he continues to improve.
For sure.
So that's 7th place here. Then we go that's 8th place. Then we go to 7th place in my week 7 game against Sean and the Edmonton Ice Cues. A 2-5 record, negative 11 tiebreak score. What do you think about Sean's season?
I think that his tiebreak score and his record are super not indicative of the kind of player he is. I think that Sean is very, very smart. I think that his team is just kind of on the it's a little on the one-dimensional side. He's got less freedom to do things than maybe a few of the other people that are above him. But he's come a long way, and since he started putting in more effort and and trying to see things through a little bit more. He's definitely improved, and Dylan's going to have his handful in the first round, I think.
Yeah, we'll get to matchups in a little bit and talk more in depth about kind of how those games are going to shake out. But I totally agree. I think, if you look at Sean's team here, uh, it was not easy preparing for my week 7 game against him. He's got things like Clefable, that's just a solid defensive option. Zerora, Articuno, Obstagoon, even to an extent, Stakataka, if you're not careful. He's got threats, and it's a weird team, and I do think you're right with kind of the one-dimensionality of it. It's a little slow, too, on the overall side. He hasn't really committed to Trick Room, which I think he could do, and maybe see some more success, but definitely a wild card. And out of the bottom 4, I think the one that I'm looking at to make the biggest run in the playoffs.
For sure.
Then we go to 6th place, Chicago, Cloisters, and Dylan, a 3-4 record and a -9 differential. So tied for 5th, but loses out on the tiebreak score. Dylan is, I think, we've said it kind of all season long. He's kind of in the same boat that Harry was, where he doesn't know a ton about how to play competitively, and I think he plays too fast. I think he gets rushed and flustered, and that's kind of what contributes to some of the mistakes that he makes. Whereas players like you, me, DJ, Garrett, we're going to sit there and calc out stuff and open up other tabs and look at things. Dylan's going to go with his gut reaction and his gut instinct, and, trying to bolt beak a seismitoad is a symptom of that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I would definitely say so too. I do admire the fact that he's started taking things more seriously as well, because I was just talking to him today, actually, and he said that he's really excited to do the next draft league that we have planned out, and then that he's really actually having fun with it now.
Good.
A lot more so than what he was at the beginning of the year. And I mean, he's won 2 games in a row. So
right. Yeah. And against teams that aren't free wins by any stretch of the imagination. So.
Exactly.
Okay, briefly going over Dylan's team real quick. He drafted the Sand team, so Excadrill, Dracozolt,
scary stuff.
Yeah, just Chandelure, Shuckle for sticky web support, Manti in a good pickup at the end of the season here, Ferrothorn, Hippowdon, Regirock, Vaporeon. He's got a really good sand core, and if you're not careful, you can get punished really hard. I do think out of all of the weather teams, and there are a couple, especially now with my free agent switches, I didn't even realize now I kind of have a hail core, but out of all the weather teams, I think sand is kind of the most exploitable. It's also the most offensive.
Right.
So if you're not careful, things like Excadrill can get in there and start sweeping and doing crazy things. The defensive support that Sandstorm brings is also pretty good, but it does. I think you have to lean harder into sand than you do some of the other teams. Whereas sun, rain, they're kind of a byproduct of bringing 1 or 2 Pokemon, and then you can kind of build around that. Sand, you kind of have to go all in. I think to make it work, but
for sure.
Okay, 5th, Sarah, I think the shocker of them all, the Cuchipuchienas, finishing 3-4 with a -9 differential. What do you want? What are your thoughts on Sarah?
Sarah is incredibly smart, and she's a lot smarter than she likes to give herself credit for something like this. I mean, originally we had another person, Sam, that was supposed to do the draft league with us, but ended up having too many conflicts. So Sarah was kind of thrust into the position having absolutely no experience whatsoever. And I mean, the first couple of weeks we kind of guided her hand a little bit, but she's been playing totally on her own now. And her decision making and stuff when she plays is very, very sound and very. You would never be able to tell that she's never done it before. And we had a game just the other day that came down to the wire, and she ended up beating me. So she's definitely somebody that I think has a very, very high skill ceiling, and she's already come a very, very long way. She's
Yeah.
got a very scary, scary team too.
I definitely agree with everything you just said there, and let's take a look at the team real quick. Um, oh gosh, right here. So the Melmetal alone is terrifying, and something
Yeah.
that I know when I played Sarah, I drilled down on and prepped for almost exclusively because it's just so scary. Alola Ninetales for hail support, Gardevoir, Regidrago, Clefairy with the Eviolite is a threat still on the defensive side and gives them some support options. Arctozolt, go Burr.
Kill
Skunk
leader.
Tank, yeah, kill leader in the draft. We'll talk about that here too. Skunk Tank, super versatile, offensive, defensive, Swampert, Charizard, Tyranitar, and some of these down here, Swampert, Charizard, Tyranitar, have not been used a whole lot this year.
Yeah.
So, playoffs, anything can happen, and we can see a lot of different looks out of Sarah's team. So, I'm excited to see what she does, and I think she could have a pretty sizable chance to make it a couple of games into the losers bracket. So,
Definitely.
okay, let's talk about you. A product of some unfortunate luck, I think,
Yeah.
is how I'll describe your season. 3-3-1, +7 differential though. So all things considered, pretty good. As far as like when I think of your team, I think the draft didn't go so well.
No.
But you've made. I think the draft didn't go well, or as well as you had hoped, and there just weren't enough moves that you could do to kind of fix the holes in your lineup. Would that be a
Yeah.
fair assessment?
I would definitely say so. I made a lot of switching early on that kind of left me in a really tough spot. And I mean, like the year started like pretty good for me. I won my first 3 games, and then I tied with DJ in a game where we played it. We played it on the Sword and Shield cart. Unfortunately, on those games, the singles games are on a 25-minute timer. So we got like 1 kill each, and the game just ended in a tie. And neither one of us really wanted to run it back and try and replicate the game. So we decided just to take a tie. And then I ended up losing a close 1-0 to Garrett, and then a close game to you. And then I lost on a 10% blizzard freeze to Sarah just 2 days ago or yesterday. So it's been unfortunate the past couple of weeks, and it would have been nice to go into the playoffs with a win. But I think with some trading and some free agent switching that I did over the past couple of weeks, that things are a little more stable on the team. And I'm excited to have a run back with DJ and see how that goes.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the moves you've made have definitely given you some more options and kind of also given your Rain team a little bit more reliable options, I think. Switching Salamence from Barraskewda and getting the Rotom Wash in there instead of like things like the Ludicolo early on or some of the other options that you had. I think I think your team is in a lot better spot, and like you said, a 10% freeze, a couple 1-0s, and a tie, you could be 7-0 going into this playoff.
Could be,
in another life, but that's kind of Pokemon. So I'm excited to see how your game against DJ will go. I assume you guys are going to play on Showdown.
Oh yes, no, we're never going back to the game card.
I'm excited to see how that game will end actually with you guys playing against each other. So, so that's you. Then we go to Garrett, who quite honestly should be 6-1 right now.
Yeah.
Garrett and DJ played in the week 7 game, and they both memed, and Garrett leaned into the meme quite a bit.
Yeah.
So really, like the first and third matchup is could have been either way if they would have actually tried and played for it. But Garrett has, I think he was my biggest surprise. I knew he was excited to do this and that he was going to be, somebody to look out for. I did not mention him to have probably the best team or the best run outside of DJ here in the entire league. I'm super
Yeah.
impressed with how he's played. He preps really, really well. And I think he's definitely, my first round game against him in the playoffs is going to be really, really difficult. Where's Garrett at? Right here, Kalamazoo. What do you think of Garrett right now?
I agree with like everything that you just said. I think one of the things that one of the things that works well for him is he's a genuinely like an outside of the box thinker, and he thinks some sets through that you wouldn't really expect. I think you saw an exploding Regilecki
Yeah.
in the first week.
Yep.
But he had like an unfortunate loss to Sarah like in the week 2 or 3 or something, and he's
it was really
won
early
almost
on.
every single game since then.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of momentum and a lot of versatility, and he's going to be difficult to prep for, and I'm excited to watch you guys play.
Yeah, definitely. The Toxapex, Aegislash, Zarude, Heracross, Cincino, Whimsicott, which I traded to him last week, Hydreigon, Regieleki, Necrozma, Magmortar. He's got coverage all over the place. He's got threats in every tier. Like you said, he thinks out of the box. So it's really hard to kind of come up with a plan for prepping, because you kind of have to take every possibility, every competitive possibility into account. So, okay, so that's 30. Then we go to me. I'm going to let you kick things off first, because I want to hear what you say, and then I'll kind of wrap things up.
I would say, as far as like the way your season has gone, that you're the person that out of everybody that I did not want to have to end up to play in the first round. And it's very fortunate that I didn't. I mean, I would love to have the run back and have another chance, but considering the fact that you lost your first 2 games of the year and things were just kind of like not piecing together, but then you rattle off 5 wins in a row, and you have like, and they're not just like close games either. I think you had like a 4-0, a 5-0. There was a 1-6-0 in there too. So like your tiebreaker score went from quite bad to almost the best. And I think your team is very consistent. I think it's got a lot of synergy, and there's a lot of natural bulk that you have. Crocodile is like the bane of many people's existence so far. And you've been using like some stuff that you didn't start the year with, like Tang growth and that sort of thing too. So I think that your prep, your game planning, and your sense for the game is very, very good. And it's going to be a very, very interesting game, I think, for you in the first couple of rounds here. So that's what I would say.
I thank you for the kind words. I
Sure.
think when it comes to my team, I think Garrett kind of mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. It was like, your team is so patient. And I definitely have kind of leaned into that. If we go and look at my team here, I definitely drafted more defensive oriented in mind, especially, with the first couple of picks, Slowbro, Rotom Heat, Tangrowth, Firewater Grass Core, that's all super bulky. Tangrowth and Rotom Heat can be sneaky offensive, and then Slowbro is just kind of, I've run the same set 7 weeks in a row.
But it works.
It works, yeah. Guja, Gallade, Jolteon, Dragonite, our free agent pickup, Sandslash, which was a free agent pickup from a couple weeks ago, Crocodile, and then our Aurorus trade most recently. We kind of started with the idea of drafting a regenerator core and just being patient and wearing people down. And then all of a sudden we picked up Hail and now have a Pokemon that has 502 base speed. And we can, complement the things like a Moxie Crocodile that got a sweep or 2 this year, and Dragonite and Jolteon and some of the other threats. So I think my team's biggest asset is that we can kind of slow the game down. I haven't run things like Toxic or really like really stally stuff, but splash in stealth rocks and just play with the natural bulk and recovery and switching. And I think, we've got a pretty good recipe for success. But it's going to be tough. I've got Garrett and then, hopefully DJ or you in the second game. So it's not going to be easy for sure. And then finally, let's talk about DJ here. 5-1-1, 19 for a tiebreak score. We kind of knew DJ was going to be the guy to hunt down from the top.
Yeah.
He's the one that's had, draft league experience before. He's done this before. The dude is super smart, preps really well, and his team is disgusting. What do you think about DJ here?
I obviously agree with you entirely. He said that his experience is more doubles orientated than like singles and stuff, but like he just kind of he's a very methodical player. I think that like the sets and stuff that he brings aren't necessarily like unexpected. Like you kind of know they're coming, but he just plays it very, very well. I mean, like he picked up Garchomp and in 2 weeks it was like top 5 on the on the kills board or whatever.
Yep.
And like he's got a lot of like bulk on the team too, like Umbreon and now a Milotic that I gifted to him.
Mm-hmm.
Volcarona is super, super scary after a Quiver Dance. Venusaur is like super, super versatile. It's just like his mind paired with the fact that his team is just like genuinely really good and counters a lot of things, and having weather control too with Torkoal, like he's got literally everything he needs. So
yeah, it's gonna be. I really hope you can win, so I don't have to play him when I beat Garrett.
I'll do my best. I'm looking forward to it.
I think DJ is definitely the odds-on favorite to win, but anything can happen. So, real briefly, I just want to bring up the KD stuff. As far as like throughout the year, we've been keeping track. I do want to mention kind of like the MVP kill race.
Yeah, that Arctazolt's really good.
Yeah. Oh my God. 12-4, and she had it the whole year. Like you said, Garchomp DJ had for just 2 games, and it went 9-3. Crocodile I had all year, but didn't bring it to every game. Went 9-3. Garrett Zarude, which ran things like bulk up and just weird stuff, but was able to get kills. The Volcarona and Venusaur, which both could set up and do things. Rotom Heat, which got a couple of kills this last week. Your Dragapult, which I think 8th place is probably not where it should be. The Milotic, which I 4 kills.
4-0 swept in a meme game.
Yeah, in a meme game. So like we're not going to count that for my personal ranking. And I love to see Alolan Sandslash in here at 5-1.
Sure.
So I just a really cool distribution of teams and Pokemon and kind of play styles. But Arctozolt, congratulations for a well-deserved regular season kill winner. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see in season 2 if anything beats that 12-4 mark.
For sure.
Okay, so that kind of covers all of the the team previews and the standings and everything. So let's actually get to the bracket. I'm going to hide this, and here we go. Okay, so we have our bracket up here. And I want to go down each game, break things down. I'll keep the spreadsheet up for the teams in case we want to kind of cross-reference that. But let's start with game 1. You against DJ, Hyrule against Castleton right here. What are you thinking going into this game?
It's really going to be a big question mark, honestly, because DJ does like so many different things with his team. It's going to be like hard to prepare for it. And the biggest thing is like he has weather control with Torkoal, right? I have weather control with Politoed. So it may turn into is it rainy or is it going to be sunny? And his sun core is like Venusaur, Volcarona, Darmanitan, and Torkoal, which is very, very good. But I pieced together a rain core with Politoed, Blastoise, and Rotom Wash now. So that's going to be interesting to see if that like plays any kind of factor in the game. And then a Dragapult, Salamence v Garchomp pseudo legendary battle could be really interesting as well. So it's honestly just a huge question mark, and whoever preps better and brings the better sets is probably just going to win the game. It could be a 1-0 victory. It could be a 6-0. It's like I literally have no idea
Yeah.
on what's going to happen. So, but I think those games are the most fun and make for some of the like best experiences doing something like this. So should be really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I think, and we'll see here on the screen as I reveal my picks. My personal bracket throughout this whole tournament. I think DJ is the slight favorite in this one. I think it's very, very close. I worry about things like Venusaur and Giga Drain from that the Volcarona. I also think, you know, he's got Raikou and some other natural counters. Not that he's going to bring them all to your rain team. And like you said, it's going to be a toss-up, but I give the slight edge to DJ in it. I hope I'm wrong, because I would rather play you, and you'll see in a second.
Yeah.
But I think we get Castleton moving down to the losers bracket to play the winner of Edmonton and Chicago. And I think Hyrule moves into the semifinals. For game 2, I've kind of already spoiled it. I do think I can beat Garrett. I think my team and my play style now is much different than in week 1 when we first played each other. And I think that with a good week of prep and, you know, just kind of really looking at what my options are, I think I can edge out a win against him. I also think this is a game where it could be either way. It could be, you know, you and Garrett in the semifinals instead of me and DJ,
right,
very easily. But I do think I can kind of sneak out a win, but it's going to be close. He's got, you know, threats top to bottom. I've kind of built out the Hale team. I don't know if I'm going to bring Hale, to be honest with you, but I'm going to consider all my options. And it was a 1-0, you know, in our first week. And I wasn't using things like Tangrowth or, you know, some of the other options that I had. So I'm excited to play it, but I do think that I can sneak out a win. But I'm stoked to play it.
For sure. I think you guys just have like some really interesting, like conflicting play styles. So it's like, I think your team does a little bit better job of like dictating the pace, but I think that Garrett has more like offensive threats.
Totally agree. I totally agree.
So it's like it's like I think it's like a total toss up. It could go either way, and that's another one I'm really excited to watch. So yeah.
So the bottom of the bracket, however, I think is a little more cut and dry. Not to throw shade or anything, but let's talk about game 3 here. The Albanian Alakazams and the Kuchipuchianas. What do you think of this matchup, and who's your pick to win?
I think Arctozolt is a very good Pokemon.
Okay, winner.
I don't know, like I said, like Sarah's got so many different like avenues that she can go, and I think that Harry's team has like just like some very obvious like weaknesses or like exploitations that she could go to. Like, in my opinion, like Tyranitar can just demolish Harry's team if it really wants to.
Yeah.
But on the other side too, like Harry's got like a good teacher in DJ, and he's got a couple free agent switches or trades that he can still make up until Thursday if he wants to like switch things around and try to take something a different way. And we've seen things like Blissey getting like multiple kills in a game just because, you know, so it's going to come down to, I think, the team that Sarah brings and how she's going to prep for Harry, and whether or not Harry decides to switch things up, because he's kind of brought the same roundabout thing each week. And if Harry goes like totally off the wall, like unconventional stuff, then we could easily see it be like a 3-0, 4-0 the other way too. So
Yep.
I think Sarah's slightly favored, but again, it's always a toss up.
Yeah, I would say she's a little bit more than slightly favored just because of how she's been playing lately. But I definitely think, you're right. It could be a game where, Harry just pulls it all together right at the last second, and is able to get an upset here. It's a 5 against an 8 seed, so anything can happen. And the bottom half of the bracket was separated by 2 games.
Right.
It's very, very close. But I think I think Sarah is the better money bet if you're going to kind of take a guess at who wins. On the last game, game number 4 of the first round, we have Edmonton Ice Cubes with Sean against the Chicago Cloisters and Dylan. I'm going to tell you right now, I think Sean comes out of this game with the win. After we got done, like 30 seconds after our game got finished, he was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so great. I'm going to totally run this back and beat you in the playoffs." So he's motivated to really put in the work. And like we said, Sean, out of anybody in the bottom half, I think his record is not indicative of how good he is. And as much as Dylan has improved, he's still making mistakes that are, you see more in like a newer player. Whereas like Sean, I think, has a little bit more experience. And I think, I think, and this is going to be a little weird, but I think Dylan has the better team. But I think Sean is the better player, which in the end I think is going to make the difference here, and I think he's going to get the win.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what I was going to say too. I like Dylan. I think his team is obviously very synergistic. He's got 2 sand rushers that can sweep the entirety of somebody else's team, and like he's got a lot of good pieces together. Sean, I admire both Sean and Garrett for their stereotypical like Canadian positivity, and just like how much they enjoy like doing stuff like this, even if they've never done it before. It's like they just come to play and they have fun, and they're pretty fine with the result. But I agree, it's like he's going to be motivated, and he's gonna put the time in this week, and he's gonna play. So that one's more of a toss up. And I understand like your opinion on it, but if it were me,
yep,
I think that it's totally 50-50.
Sure. It'll be fun to see regardless. Circling back to the top half of the bracket, and then my matchup with DJ. I think as far as this matchup goes, we kind of already talked about it. His team just kind of is a natural counter to what I have. Out of the 2 losses that I had, it was a 3-0 against me with DJ's win over me. And I don't even think it was that close. Now, again, I have improved quite a bit over the course of the last 5 weeks, but I still give DJ the bigger lead. Whoops. Where's game? Oh, that's game 8. Okay, so game 8 winner will go here. High Rule. I'm doing this a little out of order. I think DJ wins this and sends me to losers. Just his team stacks up a lot better against mine. I have problems with Pokemon that can get a good setup. Volcarona was a huge pain in the ass in the first game, and I think it could be a similar story. I need to prep for it and be careful for it. But I think my team has a hard time breaking through his walls. And it's just kind of, the sun is kind of like a natural counter to some of my walls. So I think he is able to get the win here.
Sure. I agree. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I don't think I have a whole lot to add, but it's like the sun and the like Volcarona, Darmanitan, Venusaur is like, I mean, you have an Alolan Sandslash, you have an Aurorus, you have a Tangrowth, who all struggle a lot to get past something like that.
Yeah, fire type kind of
So
wrecks me.
yeah, so that could be like another weather control situation too. Um, but yeah, no, I think that you're pretty spot on with that.
Awesome. So game 5. Now I kind of spoiled this. I think we're getting into more decisive losers bracket wins, and I think Garrett, who narrowly loses in the first round, comes back with a vengeance and is able to beat the win out over Sarah. Kind of the things that we've said, Garrett in his prep and in his out of the box thinking, I think is just going to be way too much for Sarah.
Mm-hmm. I agree too, and I think that he's got like a lot of pretty natural counters to her team as well. Like Regieleki does, like I think a lot of work in that kind of matchup too. Like Hydreigon can run so many like spread moves, like Heat Wave destroys Ninetales and Arctozolt, and like Draco Meteor's killing almost anything if he decides to do something like that. Chinchino could be pretty cool too.
Yeah, we've seen it put in work before, so.
So, and like Zarut, like his team's just got like really, really good base stat Pokemon, and like they're fast, they're bulky, they hit really hard. So I agree.
And we get into game number 6, which is you against Sean in my personal bracket, and I think that you come out with a win here. I like the moves that you've made here in the last couple of weeks, and I think we haven't really talked about it, but like you haven't ever done this before either, and I think you've improved a ton. And every week you're getting better and better. And like we said, in a different world, you could have gone 7-0 during this season. So I think you're able to get the win over Sean and move into loser semis against Garrett. And I think that game, I think you also win. I think you're on a tear in kind of the negative direction here, but I think you can turn it around in playoffs. And this isn't like gaslighting you or anything, but I think your team stacks up pretty well against Garrett, and I think you're able to kind of bring it back and are able to make it into losers finals against me.
Sure, like those two games are gonna be some big grinders for me. When I played Sean earlier in the year, the game was not close, but again, that was a time where Sean was like not putting in a whole lot of time with it. I think he was running like some pretty similar stuff to what he did almost every week, and Escavalier had a heyday against his team because he's got like some pretty like naturally slow Pokemon, and he's got like some good like special attackers, and Escavalier by itself just walled stuff out and put in like a lot of good time. As far as Garrett, I lost a 1-0 to him a couple of weeks ago. It was really, really close, and I thought that I played like probably the worst that I had all year. Like no discredit to him. He played really well, and he prepped very, very well for that game too. But I think with some of the new stuff that I have now, and I think one of the big things to remember now is that all of us have played each other, and now all of us have an idea of the way that each other play, as opposed to before where we had no idea. So now we can take into consideration like thought processes and like, oh, is this something Sean would do? Is this something Garrett would do? Is this something that I would do? So those games could go either way, but I am flattered that you bring me into to losers finals with you.
Well, that's all the farther I bring you, because I think I beat you.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say that game. I'm looking forward to a lot.
I am too. I think
if it happens,
I think there's a couple of different ways that you and I end up playing each other in the losers bracket. I would love for it to be in losers finals. Sure. And I think, like you said, that game is going to be super fun. But I think I think I can beat you again. Your team is scary. My matchup against you, I kind of let you have, your way with the rain in the first game. It doesn't really bother me all that much because I kind of have some things in my team that enjoy having a little splash on their face. But now I do have that Auroras for a little bit of a weather war if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think, our teams still match up pretty well against each other. But I think I can get it done. And get back the salty run back into playing Hyrule in the finals. And now because I am this would be my third time playing DJ, I think I can beat him once.
They always say no matter what, like even if it's in like basketball, like any like traditional sport, it's hard to beat somebody once. It's even harder to beat them twice, but to beat them 3 times is very, very hard to do.
Yeah. So I think I can force the bracket reset before losing to DJ in the grand finals. And then having the PDL season 1 champion be DJ and the Hyrule High Dragons, just off of the fact that he has done this more than the rest of us. He's got a little bit more experience. And his team just is like a shit matchup for the people that are going to have to play him in the winner's bracket. So like it's tough. But I think eventually he's gonna take the win and be our champion. I don't know. Now that you see the whole bracket, what are things that you think that are miscues on my part, or things that you think might go the other way?
I'm gonna kind of largely keep like my predictions to myself.
You coward.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily me just like not wanting to say it. It's more me just like I have no idea. I truly do not know.
Yeah.
Because like in any of those games is like everybody has played each other. Some people like Sean has beat DJ.
Yep.
But lost to you and I.
Right.
I have like beaten Dylan, who has won 2 games in a row now. Like it's such like an up in the air thing where I literally like there's going to be no way to accurately predict exactly how I think it's going to go.
Yeah.
And like I said before too, I think things are more fun for me personally when I try not to like look too far ahead.
Sure.
So I'm gonna focus one game at a time, and hopefully things pan out the way that I want them to. But
sure.
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is fun to kind of go in and see, who's going to win and kind of theory craft out how the bracket's going to go. But like you said, some of these games we're splitting hairs with how close they are. Yeah. And there could be big upsets and games that we think are a little bit more lopsided, but actually aren't. So it'll be fun to see how things shake out. I know one thing's for sure: the first week of games or the first round is going to be awesome, and I'm really excited to watch all the games and hopefully get my own win and keep on moving because I want to win.
Sorry to cut you off, but like I'm hoping that like we can all like have the time and have our schedules line up to where we can actually like watch all the games.
I agree. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'm hoping like this Sunday for first round, I hope all like 8 of us can be there on Sunday.
Yep.
In Discord, and we can just like take games at a time and we can all watch. But
that would be
if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world as long as we get to watch like finals and stuff all together. I think that'd be really cool. So.
I would love to watch everything live. I think that would be super cool. And I think like good for just like the morale of the whole group going into the end of season 1 and kind of getting hyped for season 2 in February. So
yes. Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Well, what? Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say season 2 is gonna be really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
We have a couple extra people to add, anywhere from the realm of like 12 to 14 of us instead of 8. So
yeah,
it's a redraft, and having extra people
expansion draft.
Will make for some very, very cool stuff. So
I think so too. I think it makes team building a lot harder. But it'll make the draft super, super fun.
Sure.
So, All right, man. Well, thanks for joining. And hey, we did it in 45 minutes, so I'm gonna
It's not
call that a
bad.
win. Yeah. I just want to thank everybody for joining me and Noah on the playoff preview, I guess. And we'll see you next week. Later.
Peace.